Balance. One of the more topical subjects regarding video games, ranging from online multiplayer games to single-player adventures with multiple tools, balancing a game to make it fair and engaging for the player is extremely hard to do. Mainly because the player is always the one that notices it, and whenever there is that one overpowered character slash gun slash whatever, the reactions to said thing tends to be mostly negative in an online gaming environment, and rightfully so. But when it comes to single player games, that can range wildly from game to game. I find it very interesting on what counts as being as acceptable as broken and what doesn't. To give off examples from games I'm familiar with, the Ratchet & Clank series has a powerful weapon called the Rhino, rip you a new one. In most games it's in, it's the most powerful rocket launcher in the game, and it can kill basically everything in one hit and or has high DPS. That is by design, however, thanks to usually being the hardest weapon to obtain and is designed for New Game Plus. As a result, RAC fans love the Rhino, as do I. So that is a good example of an OP tool. On the opposite side, however, there's Jack 3's Beam Reflexor, a weapon that shoots beams that reflects on any surface multiple times and has pinpoint accuracy to boot. You get this mod very early in the game, in fact, before you even start your first non-arena platforming mission. This is much more divisive as a result, since it breaks the intended balance of the game compared to Jack 2's more well-rounded arsenal. So it seems like the proper way to make a tool overpowered is to make the conditions to obtain it occur late in the game. Enter the Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak from Gran Turismo 2. This car doesn't follow the same supposed principle of making a proper OP car for a game. It costs 2 million credits to get, which is a lot, but not out of the realm of possibility, especially with the Speed 12 selling method. It also makes AI opponents, even ranging to the Toyota GT1, look like a joke. And yet, it is the most popular and beloved car in Gran Turismo 2, possibly the entire series. Why is that? Well, that's what I tend to find out in this retrospective. Also serves as a nice addendum to its return in Gran Turismo 7. I think a good place to start is, even though this is by far the fastest car in Gran Turismo 2, you can't enter the majority events with it. The game's career mode is horsepower limited, and with 981 horsepower on hand, the Escudo doesn't really have an edge if you plan to get it early on. Of course though, for the events labeled free, the Escudo dominates the competition. And I think that what separates this car from other extremely fast cars in this game, such as the Toyota GT1 and Nissan R390, is how the performance of the Escudo feels compared to said cars. It's one of the very few to have all-wheel drive, so the launch is stable and monstrous. And, atypical from what you expect from said drivetrain, this is extremely light as well at 800 kilograms. Now those specs are present in every subsequent Gran Turismo game, and yet in all of those successors, the Escudo has been heavily criticized for being awful in corners. And that makes sense. With this kind of proportions and the original purpose being rallying on Pikes Peak back when it was dirt only, of course it's not going to be as nimble as a prototype. The saving grace back in the day was roll riding, although the inclusion of Formula cars in Gran Turismo 3 kinda made the Escudo fall behind, apart from rally events. In Gran Turismo 2, however, I never found the Escudo to have bad handling. Sure, you can bounce off walls if you want to, but even compared to the Cultists, I find the handling of this car really good. There is insane levels of grip on hand, and the brakes are fantastic. It also helps that I found GT2 to normally be a very oversteery game, so all-wheel drive helps in this regard. I think in the PS1 days, there wasn't as much attention paid to the characteristics of a car's realism as there is nowadays. They managed to get some of the basics down, like the drivetrain of vehicles and weight transfer, but authenticity to each car was rather mixed. So I think that's why the Escudo handles as well as it does here, since the emphasis was on its pure specs and not the Pikes Peak DNA. And I think it's all for the better. Let's not kid ourselves, however. This is a rally car. As such, you can use it for both road and rally events, of which all of them are free as well. In the rally section, of course. In one case, it might be necessary because you'll be up against another Escudo. I tried beating this race with the Suzuki Cultist, the second fastest rally car in the game, and I would constantly lose. I'm sure a highly skilled player would be able to overcome this achievement, or use a max-tuned all-wheel drive vehicle of the sort, like a Skyline or Evo. But I think it's fair to say for the majority of players, the Escudo is the only option. I think what also helps boost this car's popularity in GT2 is its design is unlike all the other fastest cars in the game category, like the F1 cars or Red Bulls. It is massive, based off an SUV as it should be, but it also has other Pikes Peak modifications that just scream, go big or go home, like the front chin splitter and a wing that will make the Dodge Charger Daytona blush. This is something I notice when it comes to most fandoms of media. They love big anything. Big characters, big guns, big vehicles. Even if said characters is grossly obese, it's still likely the subject of more memes than anything else the media offers. It becomes extra special in a video game when said whatever is really good and viable, and the Escudo delivers on that front. My favorite aspect of this particular iteration is the large Suzuki text on the wing compared to Gran Turismo 3 onwards. It's just ingrained into my brain that this singular word is the spiritual brake lights of this car, or at least the S and I of the word. This leads nicely to my personal relationship with this car. And I'm just gonna warn you right now, I'm gonna say some things you might not like. Nothing about the car itself, no. It's my favorite car in Gran Turismo 2. Yes, just like you guys, and it's for the same reasons as I was just talking about. It's extremely fast and has a memorable design. However, the reason why the speed of this car means a lot to me isn't because it's faster than everything else. Well, it kind of is, but it's more so the fact that every other car in the game feels slow. Let me explain. Gran Turismo 2, more than any other game in the series, is celebrated for its unique car roster. And rightfully so. 15 years later, and we still don't have a racing game that officially includes cars like the Mitsubishi Tevion Tripony FTO, the Opel Tigra Ice Race Car, the Celine SR wide body, the Nismo Stagia 260 RS, the Vector Wiegert W8, the Venturi 400 GT, the Renault Espace F1, the Dodge STP Taizan Viper GT, and many, many more. But I am someone who highly, highly values Gran Turismo 1 for a multitude of reasons. One of them is the sheer excitement and feeling of speed for the majority of cars in the game, something that Gran Turismo 2 is way off the mark at. I always found 99% of the cars in this game to feel very slow, even stuff like the TS20. Again, specifically compared to Gran Turismo 1. It's technically not among the slowest Gran Turismo games for lap times, as I demonstrated a couple years back with this Laguna Seca comparison you could check in the top right part of the screen. But several aspects of this game just make it feel like a slog to race in. Something the Suzuki Escudo makes up for in spades. The Escudo was an escape for me. It was overpowered in a way that saved the game. Yes, I was one of those kids that bounced off every wall, but I also made sure to drive the car legit, and even that way, for someone as dumb as 5-year-old me, I still got lots of enjoyment for the grip, speed, and memorability. Until Gran Turismo 7, GT2 was the only iteration of the Escudo I truly loved. Also, it sounds silly, and a turbo spool is asking to be goofed around with. I hope this retrospective gives more insight to what makes an overpowered tool work. You could say I only gave the Escudo a pass since I don't get nearly as much enjoyment with every other car in the game, but the way I see it, it gives multiple reasons to enjoy Gran Turismo 2. I know there are people out there who aren't fans of the Escudo in this game, but I also think it's likely for them to greatly enjoy the car roster of the game regardless. Heck, it can be for both the whole car roster and the Escudo in general. All I know is that I will continue to put on the miles for the Suzuki every time I head back to this game. That's to be it for now. Fluffy pillows.